vibe. Are you down with it? Get it hard and live. Playing no games in the game this house. So move down with me when I rock this mic. Here comes the nomad. I walk the land. I got 100 names for sin. Can't touch my brand. Third borderland. Straight out the Hall Obsidian. My style bust like bangarang. Watch me as I do my thing. Chicken chokers couldn't hang. They couldn't understand the slang. Better think twice before you come and test. Cause I'll assume the orbit and assess your progress. Leave you a mess. I'm blessed. It's what I do best. From southeast to northwest, I possess, it's my quest. Exo arqueo lo necro feo. My circles of slaughter got more force than tornadoes. I display shows that break holes. I outweigh those cause they chose to stay smart potatoes. I'm an active volcano. You play yes, I play no. My music remain though. Garbage truck radio so clogged they need Drano. But I'm a Today Show. I'm grooving the Hey Joe. Remember this name, bro. Brother. Who down with it when I rock this vibe? Are you down with it when it hard and live? Playing no games in the game that's hype. So who down with it when I rock this vibe? Who down with it when I rock this vibe? Are you down with it? Get it hard and live. Playing no games in the game that's hype. So who down with me when I rock this vibe? I'm out on the assault like I'm hunting for vaults, dropping lyrics with thoughts that my pen will report. You a mumbler like frostbiters, lyrics by ghostwriters, bringing you heat. My inferno is hellfire. I rap in the city like a bohemian. I'm Great White North, but I'm also Armenian. My flex is expedient. I got the ingredients. They tell me stay in line, but I'm too disobedient. I'ma leave you in trauma, see you in life later again. Watch you carry that ish with you like a Calypso twin. That's former man's borderlands talking translator in the cool aviators like an ill crimson raider.
Welcome back. Eternal Dragon here with an update to my Poisonara build. We've taken her up to CH100 and we're hitting for hundreds of millions of damage. So let's take a look at what we're doing here today. We are now using the Thunder Anima as our main mobbing weapon as it ricochets like crazy. This gun is fantastic. You get a lot of shots out of it before it breaks. And with the thunder ricocheting around, it is going to give us a bunch of chances to be setting off our contagion, which will allow us to create new status effects, which will weaken people with exploit their weakness. So every additional status effect that we get onto an enemy will make it even weaker to everything else that we're doing, including the DOTs that we are stacking on it. Now, this is a DOT-based build. We are going to be doing a ton of status damage, and so that is going to work out really, really well for us. Second weapon is a Shadow Fire. This gun is phenomenal on your DOT status effect damage style builds. This thing can do a big enough DOT to easily compete with the Cannonballer. Like, you would not believe the DOT this thing can apply. It's absolutely nuts. You've got to try it out. Big shout out to David effing Steele over on Twitch for giving me a heads up as to how well this gun works with status damage builds. Next up is the Sword Explosion. This is, of course, our super duper boss killer. You can use this to obliterate anything as long as you've got it in sticky mode. This is a well-known weapon, and you're definitely going to want to use it for that insane status effect damage that you can see on the bottom of it. Now, in our last weapon slot, we have an Envy. We're primarily using this to trigger Bog Down. As with this gun, you can do it from any distance. Just fire off a couple of rounds, and you're sure to bog them down. And we are doing that so that we can do increased lightning and cryo damage, which is something that you definitely want to be seeing with this build. You know, we've got these shock guns in our main position, so boosting up the damage that they will do. Now, here we could have a cryo or a shock version of this exact sword, the Echo Caustic Twin Soul. Unfortunately, I could not get one to drop. So the reason you would want cryo or shock is, again, just a bonus off of the bog down. Right now, we're actually having the damage on our Echo cut if an enemy is bogged down, but it doesn't matter. You will still hit for millions of damage when you trigger the Echo. And Caustic here, you want to boop bosses mainly. I mean, you can run around and hit whoever you want with the sword, but that's to run up and hit a boss before you really start to lay on the damage to increase your chance of your status effect and your status effect damage. 2 Demon Blight Rings for status effect damage. You might be able to get some better ones that perfectly line up with what we're doing in terms of additional shock. But you see, we got our lightning status effect chance there on this one. We got our frost status effect chance. And then here we got lightning status effect duration and frost status effect chance. Poison status effect duration, not bad. You could get some slightly better rolls, but I feel like these are pretty darn good ones. And then, of course, when afflicted with the status effect, increase this ring's effectiveness by 50% for 8 seconds on both of them. That is the Daemon Blight. Over here we have the Cursed Wit. This is now the best shield in the game now that they've fixed it, and it works for every single character all the time. You just want to be using this for bossing. You get your shield knocked down, you're up close, you get an additional 100% damage on everything you're doing. It's universal damage, it's crazy. You want to use the Cursed Wit. We do have an Ancient Deity and a Body Rune. The Body Rune would again help with spreading your contagion by adding a little bit of fire to all of the damage that you're doing in the first place. So if you do want to be spreading contagion a little bit better, you can use the Body Rune, but I would definitely recommend using the Cursed Wit as your main ward when you are bossing. Now moving down to our armor, we are in a miasmic mail to again get an additional 52% status effect damage. And we are wearing this one specifically because it has Bladecaller up top in our class skills. And then all damage, gun damage, area damage, so that we can bonus as much as possible off of our skill. The Plague Storm. Now, as you can see, the Plague Storm, this is a crazy skill. It bonuses with all of your status effects and damage, so we're going to take a look at that in a second. But that is the reason that we want to be using the Miasmic Mail, the one that we have here, with the Bladecaller damage. Now, you could get a better one that is Blight Stabbo. I wish I could have gotten one to drop. I could not, so this is the best we have so far. In the spell slot, we have the Wicked Gossip. The main reason that we're using this one is that it does on-hit ricochet to 2 nearby enemies. If there's no enemies nearby, it makes that poison puddle. This, of course, is another great chance for us to be setting off contagion with both the ricochets and the puddle. And then we have the Sacrificial Skeep. It's pretty much my favorite armor for the game. This one, we got it with Dark Magic Damage, Stabbo Power. You know, again, we could try to get a little bit better of a roll here, but we're already doing hundreds of millions of damage. But if we got this with Bladecaller and, say, with Lightning, that might be the ideal roll. I absolutely love the Sacrificial Skeep because it gives you that chance to get up when you've been knocked down just by shooting Skeep. And if you are not knocked down, the Skeep will fill your life back up for you a few times as it circles around you. Totally awesome. Pretty much my favorite amulet. As you can see, we got it with 48.3% status effect damage and with 17.5% all damage dealt, which again, both of those going back into the damage formula and increasing everything that we're doing. Our main enchants, of course, being on spellcast, increased damage, like all damage by 15% for 10 seconds. We're going to be getting that anytime we use the Wicked Gossip. I got it on most of the weapons. Here we have in spellcast ability instead because again, when you come up against the bosses, you really want your Plague Storm to be hitting for the maximum amount of damage, and so that is why we have put ability on there. And then poison here, just because it's a poison gun, that was the best roll I could get. You could change it up if you wanted to, but again, this weapon is more of a tool than a bossing weapon. You can boss with it, but it really is more of a tool. Over here, we have enchanted with Action Skill Start. When you summon that Plague Storm, you increase all damage by 20% for 20 seconds. And on Spellcast, we are taking our Elemental damage up by 20% for 5 seconds. So every time you again use that Wicked Gossip, increasing all of the different types of DoT damage that we are trying to do by 20%. And on Action Skill Start, calling in that Plague Storm, we increase our status effect chance and damage again by 20% for 10 seconds. So a pretty nice little synergy overall. Status effect boost into an elemental boost, into an all damage boost, into an all damage boost. Or here into an ability boost for the additional Plague Storm damage. And that ability boost will also give you a lot more damage here from your Geist in the Shell. So let's look at these skills. In Bladecaller, we have 5 out of 5 here in Virulence to make sure we are going to get that status effect. Whenever we hit things, we are always going to be applying our status effect with the way we blind things up. 5 out of 5 here, Geist in the Shell, creating all sorts of Bog Spirits, shooting out for us, doing tons of additional damage, just because we are going to be shooting a lot with this build. And of course, because this is when we get the critical hits, That is why we have cross-class here over to Stabomancer, getting a ton of additional critical hits, plus the additional status effect stuff that we will go over in a second. This is just coming off the class mod here. We want 5 out of 5 active decay. That's to give you a whole bunch of additional poison damage. That will boost this up. And it will also boost all the stuff that you're doing here with the Plague Storm. And then when your shield is up, so that you don't always have to be trying to run around with the Cursed Wit down, we are going to be getting an additional 30% damage when that shield is filled back up. And you know, we're not a spell shot, so we can't guarantee the shield is down all the time or anything, so this is a great skill to use. Now we have Bogged Down. This is going to apply this. So status effect to enemies every time we do a non-status effect poison damage. That is our Wicked Gossip and our Envy. Over here, the Worst Curse. This one is fantastic. Every time we apply the Dark Magic status effect, our spell damage and ability damage are going to increase for a duration. And of course, an easy place for us to get that is right here from our Shadow Fire. 50% chance to be applying our status effect when we shoot or throw this gun. Moving down to here, we have 3 out of 3 in Toxicity. That's whenever we apply that poison status effect with the Envy or the Wicked Gossip, as that is the base thing that they do beyond the Bog Down and Soak effect that we're abusing. You'll see that we also get a huge increase. Critical hit damage is going to go up. Companion damage is going to go up. This here, the Spirit Swarm, counts as a companion towards this, so you're going to get increased damage there. Action skill cooldown rate will go up, and our duration, same as the applied status effect. So a huge, great amount of damage for the build is going to come out of here. It is fantastic to get your 3 out of 3 in here. In fact, if you could get 6 out of 3 here, it might make the build even more fun. And of course, we've got the Spirit Swarm. Every time we apply a status effect to an enemy, it creates that Spirit Swarm companion that's going to seek out and damage your nearby enemies, dealing status effect damage of the applied status effect damage type. So basically, it is going to swap between different types of status effect damage. And when you do a bigger DoT, it will respawn the Spirit Swarm wherever you did that bigger DoT. So let's go over Plague Storm. Plague Storm is probably the best action skill in the game right now in the way that it can stack up damage for almost anything that you're doing. You can make great melee builds with this. You can make great spellcasting builds with this. It is just a phenomenal, phenomenal skill. It might be OP. So when you summon in your Plague Storm, you get a giant circle of Plague Storm in the sky above your target, and it starts dealing poison status effect damage over time in the area. It's this rain that falls. But whenever you deal non-ability damage, a percentage of that storm is restored, and it periodically creates these elemental bolts targeting a random enemy beneath it. It can create a lot of these bolts at once. A lot. But the really unique thing is that this stacks up the damage that you've been doing. Anything that you've been doing with your status effect damage starts getting multiplied by this, and you can see the results. You'll start to hit hundreds of millions of damage when you can get everything stacked up right. So how that works is the Plague Storm will periodically create these elemental bolts targeting the random number of enemies beneath it, dealing ability of the random elemental damage type equal to the number of stored split damage from amongst all the targets, and then it clears all the stored damage. So the more enemies that you start hitting while this is open, hence all the ricocheting, the more damage will be stored up into the cloud and come back down and strike all the enemies underneath. It is absolutely crazy when you see it come off really, really well, as you did at the start of the video. So moving over to here, we have, of course, 3 out of 3 into haste to move really, really quick. And then 5 out of 5 in potent poisons. That's where our status effect damage is increased again. And the duration is increased. Why not make people bleed for longer? Now, we talked about exploit the weakness a little bit before. Every single time you get a different status effect applied to an enemy, you're going to see they're going to take an additional 6% damage. So, of course, if you can get all of the different types of elemental damage on somebody, they're going to bleed to death in seconds. 4 to 5 here in Swift Death, just because I feel like a little bit more all damage is a good thing to do with this particular build. We don't really need any of these other skills in here at all. I mean, you could take these, you don't need them. You could take less points here, you could put a point into Shadow Step, you could put a point into Elusive, but again, these aren't really going to make much of a difference for you. I mean, okay, so you can, you know, get an extra critical hit, but we're already using Echo, so it's really not going to matter very much. And then over here, Contagion, we're going to take that 3 out of 3 so that we can spread our DOTs everywhere. Moving over to the hero points, we've gone 48 out of 48 up top. You just always max out the crit damage on every build. I haven't seen a build where this isn't maxed out. Put some extra points here into crit chance so that we're going to make sure we're always going to crit. Even with our Stabbo skills, we still want to make sure our Wicked Gossip is critting all the time, and that our ability is going to crit whenever it can. Points all the way up to max here in Wisdom, so that we have additional 60% status damage here as well. And the last little bit went over into Attunement, just so that our action skill can come back a little bit faster. Finally, we are currently myth rank 997. So that is it for the build, folks. That is Poisonara Chaos 100. Thanks for sitting through and listening to me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitch as well, where I play live. And we are actually planning a YouTube stream to celebrate the 1,000 followers here on YouTube. Thank you so much for that, my friends. I am very, very excited for that. I just have to figure out how to get it all set up so that you guys can have just as great an experience here on YouTube as we have over on Twitch. So until then, until you could maybe see me live, thanks for checking out the video. The save file is on the Discord. Happy gaming.
I come flexing with style and mad skills, like my name was Eternal Dragons, game playing builds. So come get your fill, cause you paying the bill. The conflict's critical, situation real. I'm a pop, I'm let it rock, those mark, old school 360 like an Xbox, make it hot. What you got, gonna give me go right? I'ma watch my watch as I watch you fly, slowing down my lyrics for